Okay, keeping it rolling. Works of Love, Part 2, Chapter 6. He starts it off with a quote from 1 Corinthians 13:13. So love abides. Yes, God be praised. Love abides. Whatever the world takes away from you, though it be the most cherished, whatever happens to you in life, however you may have to suffer because of your striving, for the good if you please, if men turn indifferent from you or as enemies against you, if no one is willing to admit acquaintance with you or acknowledge what he nevertheless owes to you, if even your best friend should deny you, if nevertheless in any of your strivings, in any of your actions, in any of your words you truly have consciously had love along, then take comfort, for love abides. What you knew with love will be consoling to remember, more blessed than any sort of achievement any human being could have accomplished, more blessed than if the spirits had been submissive to you. It will be more blessed to be remembered by love. What you knew with love will be consoling to remember, neither the present nor the future, neither angels nor devil, and God be praised, not even the fearful thoughts of your unquiet mind will be able to take it from you, not in the stormiest, most difficult moment of your life, any more than the last moment of your life, because love abides. And when despondency begins to make you weak, so that you lose the desire to will rightly in order to make you strong again, as strong as despondency, alas, makes you strong in the defiance of forsakenness. When despondency makes you all empty, changes your whole life into a homogenized, meaningless repetition, so that you see it all together but very indifferently. See the meadows and woods green again. See the manifold life in air and water move again. Hear the birds singing together again. See again and again the activity of men and all sorts of work. And you know indeed that God is, but it seems to you as if he had receded into himself, as if he were absent in heaven and far away from all these insignificant things which are hardly worth living for. When despondency takes the heart out of your whole life, so that you know but only faintly that Christ has existed, and nevertheless know with anxious clarity that it was 1800 years ago, as if he were infinitely far removed from all these insignificant things which are hardly worth living for. Oh, consider then that love endures. For if love endures, it is equally certain that it is in the future. If this is the consolation you need, or that it is in the present, if this is the consolation that you need. Against all the terrors of the future, set this consolation. Love abides. Against all the anxiety and staleness of the present, set this consolation. Love abides. If it is consoling to a desert dweller to know for sure that there is a spring, and would be a spring no matter how far he traveled, what spring would nevertheless be so missed? What manner of death would be so excruciating, as would be the case if love were not and would not be for all eternity? No matter what sufferings life brings us, the knowledge that true love remains for all eternity will perpetually build us up, reassuring us that anything we have done out of love in the past and anything we will do in the future out of love is not in vain. It will endure. This understanding is a bulwark against despondency and the motivation we need to direct our efforts towards those endeavors that are the most meaningful. This is a very upbuilding thought, that love abides. However confused everything is for you, love abides. If one ceases to love, he has never been loving at all. If one has stopped loving someone, it was because they did not love them in the truest sense. Their love was self-love. True love involves a relationship not just between two people. It includes a relationship with love itself, with God. And we must continue loving everyone in the way that God would have us love them. Love in such a way that we seek what is best for their eternal soul. But this expression, Christianity does not recognize, does not understand, is not willing to understand. Oh, he's saying to stop loving. He's saying that expression, Christianity does not understand. This expression, Christianity does not recognize, does not understand, is not willing to understand. When one speaks of reaching a breaking point, this is because one is of the opinion that in love there is only a relationship between two rather than a relationship among three, as has been shown. Now, when the two persons relate themselves in love to each other, each one of them all by himself is related to love. Now the break does not come easily at all. Before they reach the breaking point, before one comes to break his love in relationship to the other, he must first fall away from love. In and through the break, the innocent sufferer shall certainly be the stronger if he does not also fall away from love. If love were simply and only a relationship between two, then one person would continually be in the other's power, insofar as the other was a base person who would break the relationship. When a relationship is only between two, one always has the upper hand in the relationship by being able to break it, for as soon as one has broken, the relationship is broken. But when there are three, one person cannot do this. The third, as has been mentioned, is love itself, which the innocent sufferer can hold on to during the break, and then the break has no power over him. Seen from the angle of the past, the break becomes clearer and clearer day by day and year by year. But the lover who abides, by abiding, belongs to the future, the eternal, and from the angle of the future, the break is not a break, but rather a possibility. But the powers of the eternal are needed for this, and therefore the lover who abides must abide in love. Otherwise, the past still gets power little by little, and thereby the break gradually becomes apparent. Oh, the powers of the eternal are needed at the decisive moment, straightway to transform the past into the future, but it is capable of being this power. The lover naturally... Oh yeah, that's something else there. Just some other quotes. The lover wills not to know the past, for he abides. The lover who abides continually emancipates himself from his knowledge of the past. He knows no past, he waits only for the future. True love is directed towards the future and disregards the past. If one concentrates on the past, then a relationship could very much be declared over. But when directed towards the future, there is always possibility of reconciliation. Yeah, and I think now, this section is where he's talking about a girl who was in love with someone, I think, and was like abandoned. And she was waiting for them. But perhaps the girl really was in love with herself. She desired union with the beloved for her own sake. It was her only desire. Her soul was as one with this desire. In gratitude for its fulfillment, she would do everything to make the beloved's life as beautiful as possible. Yes, it is true, but yet it was for her own sake that she desired the union. If this is so, she becomes weary. She becomes attentive to the past, to the duration of time. Now she no longer sits at the window. She expresses that the break exists. In this example, he shows that if we are really only loving ourselves and our love for another, then we will become weary in continuing to love someone when it is not reciprocated. If we truly love them and don't need their love, but only desire what is best for them, then we can effortlessly continue to love them in the truest sense, even when it is not reciprocated. If we need someone else's love because of the validation it supplies to our ego, then we will certainly become weary and despondent when it fails to arrive. As he truly is the lover, there is no misunderstanding which sooner or later will not be conquered by his abiding. There is no hate that ultimately will not have to give up and yield to his abiding in eternity, if not sooner. Note, he who has acquired another person's love and therefore is in possession of it must at every moment be afraid of losing it. But he who is hated because of his love is eternally certain of winning love. If time cannot, at least the eternal shall wrench away the other's hate, open his eyes for love, and thereby also for the love which endured all through life and now abides in eternity. In this way, love never fails. It abides. Yeah, and then now back to that example of the girl wasting away in love. She wasted away, a sacrifice to love. Yet precisely this is the highest which can be said of any human being. The question, however, is this, whether that for which one is sacrificed is the highest. But eternally understood, to be sacrificed is, and continues to be, as long as the world remains the world, a far greater achievement than to conquer. For the world is not so perfect that to be victorious in the world by adaptation to the world does not involve a dubious mixture of the world's paltriness. To be victorious in the world is like becoming something great in the world. Ordinarily, to become something great in the world is a dubious matter, because the world is not so excellent that its judgment of greatness unequivocally has great significance, except as unconscious sarcasm. Because the world and what it values is paltry, to be victorious in it requires that you too become paltry. So anyone who is instead not victorious in the world's terms because they refuse to compromise become a sacrifice. But that does not imply that what one is being sacrificed for is the highest good. People can make themselves martyrs for romantic love because they refuse to conform to the world's base conception of that love. But this is not worth sacrificing oneself for. They may remain faithful to their love for someone when it is unrequited, which is honorable, but what they are remaining faithful to is not the highest. It is not eternal love, and therefore it will end in despair. Erotic love is desire for this life. Therefore time had power over her. Therefore she wasted away in love until it too wasted away. But love abides, it never wastes away. For spiritual love contains in itself the spring which flows unto eternal life. Because romantic love only exists in time, in this life, being sacrificed to that love will waste you away, as time wastes away your expectation for fulfillment. I'll say that again. Because romantic love only exists in time. Christ said there's no marriage in heaven. So romantic love is not eternal. It's just for this life. And because of that, if you're willing to be sacrificed, if you're choosing to be sacrificed for that kind of love, that love will waste you away as time wastes away your expectation for that to be fulfilled. But true love abides for eternity. So any efforts towards that love can never weary you or waste what you have invested toward that end. But what is it which gives a human being immortality? What else but the love which abides? The contradiction then is this, that with the most incorruptible will, willing to be sacrificed, one nevertheless cannot, more deeply understood, be unconditionally faithful or abide in that which does not itself eternally abide. And this erotic love does not do. The young girl wasted away, even if he had come. Consequently, had come before death, it nevertheless still would have been too late. She abided, but time had weakened in her the desire by which she lived, and yet this same desire consumed her. On the other hand, the lover, in the deepest sense, he who abides does not waste away. His love does not consume. If someone who misunderstood him, if someone who had cooled off towards him, If someone who hated him had returned to him again, he would find him unchanged, unchanged in the same longing for the eternal and in the same quiet calmness amid the temporal. His love is eternal, relates itself to the eternal, rests in the eternal. Therefore he expects at every moment the same as he expects eternally, and therefore without disquiet, for in the eternal there is time enough. If love's expectation is able to make a man, essentially understood, weak, it must be because his expectation stands in a dependent relationship to time, so that time has the power to decide whether or not the expectation becomes fulfilled or not. That an expectation is exclusively temporal makes for unrest in expectation. Time essentially does not exist without unrest. Say that again. Time essentially does not exist without unrest. The elapsing of time, the fact that it passes, elicits disquietude. Then the fulfillment, if it does not occur in time, cannot occur at all. When this is the case, expectation consumes. Any hope we have that is subject to time, to this life only, will never give us peace. Either we will yearn for it when left unfulfilled, or we will always have anxiety that we will lose what we have. Either way, if something is bound by time, it is never the place we are to set our affections. It is a strange crisscrossing of self-contradicting thoughts, but it cannot be otherwise with even the highest faithfulness in erotic love than that it almost seems to be faithlessness, because erotic love itself is not the eternal. The contradiction does not lie in the girl. She remained faithful. The contradiction which the girl suffered lies in this, that erotic love is not the eternal, and consequently in this, that it is impossible to relate oneself with eternal faithfulness to that which in itself is not the eternal. Yeah, I'll read that last part again. It is impossible to relate oneself with eternal faithfulness to that which in itself is not the eternal. We cannot give our absolute devotion to anything that is not God. Not only is God the only ever-present and eternal reality, but God is also the only object that is worthy of our complete devotion. To think creatures deserve this level of glorification is absurd. We owe true godly love to them, but we do not owe them reverence or eternal devotion as if they're not abject sinners in need of reform. Yeah, we do not, so I'll say that again. We owe true godly love. So let me go back here. To think creatures deserve the level of glorification that we give them in romantic love when we exalt romantic love is absurd. We owe true godly love to them, but we do not owe them reverence or eternal devotion as if they're not abject sinners in desperate need of reform. And if we do actually love them in a pure sense, the only way to show this is by caring for their eternal soul, not whatever part of them is gratifying our lust or our vanity. What can make the moment of pardon, the transition of reconciliation, so natural, so easy as this, that the lover, as sketched previously, by abiding, has continually discarded the past? For then, from his side, the reconciliation already exists, as if there had been no separation at all. When we forget the past and continue to love purely the one who offended us, then reconciliation becomes easy, because from the true lover's perspective, there was never any break in the relationship.